having played almost every FNaF game, it should be no surprise to anybody that my favorite is Help Wanted, because it has by far the most diverse gameplay that also builds on itself and becomes more and more of a test of skill as it goes on, but you feel like you're getting better at each part because they're related to each other. That being said, I just thought it would be fun if I did a ranking where I just ranked the every mini game in this game. And so let me just get this out of the way. If one of them is similar to another one, it has to have a drastic enough difference from the one it's similar to in order for me to count it as something different. And for the first three FNaF games, because this game also serves as a remake of the first three, I'm only counting them as one minigame. So yeah, here we go. So yeah, the worst level is Plush Baby. It's an absolutely miserable experience. The best thing to do at the beginning, in fact, because of how ridiculous this level is just wait for it to start on its own instead of beginning to do things normally, because if you just wait, then you can actually delay the attacks from the Plush Babies. But yeah, it's basically just fumbling around in the dark, searching for these Plush Babies that are very not difficult to see, but given the fact that you're in such a hurry and you can't use the flashlight for very long or you'll run out of power temporarily, which, by the way, if you run out of your power temporarily, it's basically just a game over. But given that you don't have much time to look in each spot, it's completely ridiculous, and you'll end up missing some and then dying because of it. The fact that they spawn in set locations is really the only redeeming factor, because, while it is random where they spawn, they always spawn in specific spots. Therefore, if you memorize these spots, you can beat the level, but it will still take a while because it's borderline impossible due to the limitation of the flashlight power. So yeah, this is what I think is the worst level in the game, by a long shot. So you might think Side B, Plush Baby, is even worse because of the fact that everything in the room is a Plush Baby. But I mean, they made the actual aggressive Plush Babies look different, so it's not that bad compared to the regular level. I mean, it's worse, yes. But the reason I don't think this is as bad as the normal level isn't even anything that to do with the level itself. It's just because of the placement in the game. You have already done the normal Plush Baby level, so you should have enough experience to be able to do this if you're able to do the normal one as well. So it still sucks, but at least you have a little bit of practice beforehand. But hey, 2 in the main game wasn't enough. When making the Halloween DLC, they decided to make a third Plush Baby level. This one isn't as bad as the other two, but I hate it just as much. Because you see, here's the thing about this one. You can actually look in every direction, and they can hide in every direction. But also, they're wearing masks, Halloween masks of the other characters. So they don't blend in at all. But the fact that you have to look in all directions makes it more stressful than a lot of the other levels in this game. But also, you know what's good about this level, and the reason why it's not the worst Plush Baby level? It's completely optional. Unlike the other two that you actually have to beat in order to finish the game, you don't have to do this one at all because it's in the Halloween DLC, and every level is accessible from the get-go. So, congratulations. That's the only reason why you're not the worst thing. So, Ennard's level is actually a pretty effectively scary level. And so it's also a lot of fun to play if you know what you're doing, but there is one piece of unfair design that I can't let the level get away with, which is why it's so low. And that is the second section with the gears, where Ennard will appear in one of 3 spaces from time to time, and if you look at him for too long, then he disappears for the first 2 times that you look at him for too long. Then the third time you look at him for too long, he kills you. Here's the thing, I don't like that at all, because when you're doing this for the first time, that's not explained to you. It's not explained to you at all, so you have to either die there and realize what you're doing wrong, or you have to keep doing it and then eventually realize that you're doing it wrong, but you still have to get through this first section of puzzles first. And the game never explains it to you, so you have to come to the conclusion on your own that you can't look at him for too long, which I think is completely ridiculous, considering it's a mechanic that kills you, and it's never explained. But you know what? Actually knowing it makes this level beatable and a lot more fun. So, because you can beat it. And, you know, you obviously you're going to look at him when you see him there if you don't know that he's not going to kill you. So yeah, a bit unfair, but you know what? It's worth playing. So my problem with the side B Foxy section of parts and service is the fact that when you're playing it in flat mode, you can't even see all of the nodes on the power battery things that you have to put in him. And they change colors in this mode. So you can just happen to die because you can't see which color is on in specific spots. But so my other problem with this also just applies to the regular Foxy parts and service, so I'll just talk about that when I get there. That being said, I do think that the aesthetic of the whole place being on fire is actually very cool looking. So I'll give my compliment to it for that. I also like that all the drawers are labeled number one, so you have to either look at each of them and be able to determine where you have to get each of the switches from, or you have to just remember where each of the drawers is from the original level. Either way, I think that's a cool touch, but I still think the fact that you can't see all of the nodes when you're lifting them in flat mode is unfair, and I don't like that at all. Considering the fact that Circus Baby is one of the best characters in the franchise, this level was such a massive disappointment. It's literally just you sit in one spot, and whenever she gets close to the door, close it, and just hold it shut for a little bit. The plush babies will kill you if you wait too long to open the door again, but that shouldn't even be an issue. It's basically like it's like playing a rhythm game, but one where you only have to push a button every 20 seconds as opposed to 2 times every second. So it's not even like a fun rhythm game. That being said, I still have a little bit of enjoyment with the timing and trying to make sure that I close the door right before she gets to it. That I think is enjoyable, but like, come on. This is a level that was designed, and for Circus Baby of all characters, how disappointing. The fact that Help Wanted is a remake in addition to new content, but it's also a remake of the original 3 games, I think is really cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of the games were remade well, because holy shit is Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Help Wanted a terrible adaptation of what the original game was like. It's not chaotic at all. It's slow, it's boring, and you have to listen to the music box the entire time. I don't like it. I don't like it. The fact that the Withered animatronics aren't even here is also extremely disappointing, because that means that you can't just have somebody randomly show up without you being able to tell that they were coming and have to put on the mask. That's part of why it's not nearly as chaotic as the original FNaF 2, but man, they really dropped the ball with this specific type of level. That being said, the other 2 games were remade very well, and I will be getting to them later, so look forward to that. So, Hallway just has parts that I find kind of annoying. Like, so there's a point in this level where Nightmare Freddy starts chasing you, and it works like a timer. Like, you have to keep moving or else he'll catch up. That, in itself, isn't a bad thing, but the fact that you have to stop for the other characters is what makes it so annoying. That being said, the other characters, even without Nightmare Freddy, are really annoying in this level. If you stop in front of a door with Nightmare Chica or Nightmare Bonnie, because Nightmare Foxy is standing in front of you, well, fuck you. You're dead. You can't do anything there. But then also, Nightmare Foxy shows up with the lightning, but sometimes when you're just walking, you won't know that he's there until the lightning shows up. You can see him for a split second, and then he immediately sees you because you're moving, and then he just runs over to you and kills you. It's annoying. This level isn't terrible, though. It's just eh. So you're wandering around a corn maze trying to find 4 keys. I mean, you can use the keys to open gates and escape if you find the ones of the right color, but for a lot of this, you're basically just waiting at one of these cardboard cutouts for Grim Foxy to appear so that you can just go behind one and avoid him, because he can't kill you if you're behind one. So it's basically just looking for each of those until you happen to find a key or a gate. Now, what is cool about this level is if you get all 4 keys, you can then find an extra key, which you can then take to the center of the map where you start the level and get a secret ending where you find Vanny's mask. So that's cool. But I tried to do that, and you can be as unlucky as me and find all 4 keys, but then as soon as you find the 4th one, you won't be able to find a cardboard cutout, and then Grim Foxy kills you because he's a big giant pile of dicks. Yay! So the Foxy Parts and Service is actually kind of cool because, once again, I said this in the earlier one, you have to find batteries in the drawers and put them in specific spots on him. But the problem is the fact that he's moving. And this makes the level feel slightly unfair in some cases because sometimes he just starts moving when you're putting the battery in something. And if he's moving when you're putting the battery in a specific spot that he's moving in, he then just kills you. And it's annoying. It makes the level feel finicky. But I do like the fact that he actually makes the room go dark and then just decides to run at you. I think that's actually a really cool touch. So the first level of FNaF 3 is the easiest level in the game because you literally cannot die in it. There are no enemies or anything. But so the other levels after that, they're fun. Like, they basically just come down to me trying to keep Springtrap in the top right corner of the screen, but it's fine. You can pretty much ignore all problems with the airs by just going to the left monitor and rebooting all at pretty much all times, just whenever possible, and you will never have any problems. And unless one of the phantoms gets you, but if you just have fast enough reaction time, then you should be all right. This level isn't anything special, but I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy it regardless. Danger Keep Out feels like a version of the original FNaF from another universe. Because, yeah, it's all Halloween themed, and instead of having actual doors, you have to use flashlights to scare away the enemies. That, I think, is pretty cool, and they're the Jacko versions of Bonnie and Chica, Grim Foxy, and Dreadbear. I'm still not really sure how Dreadbear works in this mode, but I've also never had a problem with him. But you need to be paying attention to where everybody is, not just Freddy and Foxy this time. Because if one of them happens to show up at your door when you're resetting your power, because you have a limited amount of shocks that you can do, 5 to be exact, before you have to pull a switch to recharge your power. But you can also recharge your power at any time, and it takes significantly less time if you're not out of power. You have to be paying attention to where everybody is so that you don't have to, so that you, whenever you use your flashes and turn off your power, you don't waste anything, because if one of them shows up at your door while you're out of power or recharging, that's it. You're screwed. I think this mode is fun because of that. Plushtrap, similarly to Circus Baby, has an extremely simple level, but unlike Circus Baby, his level is actually good. So, similarly to FNaF 4, you have to listen to him and shine the flashlight whenever he moves to get him to stop moving, and you have to stop him while he's on the X that's right in front of you. That's it. I mean, there's some audio in the background that creates all these murky background noises to distract you, which hide Plushtrap's movement, and I think that's great that that's there. But also, Plushtrap's movement is quiet, but not quiet enough that you can't hear it. It sounds like, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like if you put a carpet on the floor and then just start dragging it. It sounds like that. You have to look out for that noise to know when he's moving. But shine the flashlight, this gets very tense because of how quiet the noise is, so you don't always know whether or not you're making a mistake by not shining the flashlight. So I think this level is very cool for that reason. Nightmare BB's level is extremely similar to that of Plushtrap, also like in FNaF 4, where he was functionally identical to Plushtrap, but only for the Halloween DLC. But the reason why I think this level is even better is because Nightmare Balloon Boy makes distorted Balloon Boy sounds as well that make it harder to hear when he's moving, and they act as distractions in addition to the already existing in Plushtrap's level sounds that happen in the background. So I think that's cool. Also, Nightmare Balloon Boy is my favorite Nightmare character, so I have my own personal bias for liking this level. So I'm not going to hide the fact that that's the case. But you know what? Can you really complain? I think this level is better than Plushtrap's, although not by much. Now this is how you remake FNaF 2. They added the Withered characters in an additional mode that you unlock after beating the normal FNaF 2 levels. And you can also adjust the difficulty of this one to whatever you like, which is cool. But so they actually added the Withered characters, which adds the much needed chaos to the Help Wanted version of FNaF 2. I don't really have that much else to say, but they can just spontaneously come into your room and you have to react to that. And I like that. It makes it way more, well, chaotic. I've said that word way too many times. I apologize. So, Funtime Foxy, my favorite character in the series, his level in this game is similar to, well, it's not completely similar. It's actually kind of different because of how it controls, but it's based off of the minigame in Sister Location where you have to walk through this dark room using a flashlight that you can use every few seconds for a moment. And if he shows up in that one, you just stop moving and then wait until you flash again to see if he's still there, and just keep doing that until he's gone and then start moving again. But in this game, what you actually do is you flash the room and you see where he is, and you actually start walking towards the door that you're supposed to go to, but you start walking in a different path to what you have before. And I think that is a great way to adapt it into a 3D environment, especially considering how boring Sister Location actually was as a game. I like that they took one of its ideas and just changed it completely, but for the better. Congratulations, Funtime Foxy. You got something better than what you had before. Also, this level creates some of the most tense moments in the game because of the fact that he gets close to you whenever you're walking, and you have to not bump into him. I also like that if you flash several times in the same spot, he just kills you. I like that you can't just not move. Dreadbear's level actually does make you feel like you're performing some sort of mad Frankenstein experiment. But so, really, I'll just say this right out of the gate. Really, my only complaint with this level is how confusing it is when you're playing it for the first time because you don't know what all the equipment is used for. Even though they say what it's used for, not specifically what each piece is used for, but they tell you what you need to do, basically. But after that, you have to figure out what each of the pieces does. That being said, I think this is a lot of fun because you basically have to complete a few mini games within a very specific amount of time. But also, you can outsmart the game by looking at the brain colors and knowing what colors you have to put in, so you can actually save a few seconds before you rejolt him with the energy. But you have to pay attention to the light bulbs because that shows you how many times you can shock him before he kills you. Also, I just think this level's fun, but so another thing I have to say is I am a man, so I have problems seeing the colors and discriminating what each of them is from each other accurately. That is an evolutionary thing. That's an actual thing, by the way. So it is confusing to me sometimes when I try to do this level. So Bonnet is fine in this level, but Bon is really annoying because he just shows up with at you at random times as a distraction. But Funtime Freddy is the only character in this level that can kill you, so you have to keep track of where he is by listening to audio cues, like him talking, his footsteps, stuff like that. And if you're at the doors, you can hear him breathing, so shut the door in that case. It's cool. Really, my only problem is the fact that Bon comes in as a distraction that I don't think you can do anything about. I mean, Bonnet is also a distraction, but you can get rid of her by shining the flashlight. So, that's fine. I just don't like the cheap jump scare that Bonnet does. I mean, Bon does as a distraction. I think that's kind of mean. So, side B Ennard really only adds one thing, and that is the fact that Springtrap appears in the second part of the first set of puzzles. It doesn't really add that much, but a little bit of a time limit. I think the fact that he's there is cool. But what I do think is cool about this level is the aesthetic in the fact that there are just a bunch of animatronic pieces just lying around all over the place. It's a huge mess. But so, other than that, it's pretty much the same as the normal Ennard level. But I just wanted to talk about this one individually because, how can I not appreciate the aesthetics of how that one works? Also, this happens at the end of the level.
Well done. A perfect 72 degrees. See you next time.
So this is pretty much the exact same as Nightmare Balloon Boy's first level, with the only difference being that there are balloons all over the place, which makes it really, really hard to tell where he is in the room, which makes you rely even more on the audio cues. That's really all there is to this one, but I like the fact that it makes it even more tense because you don't know how close he is to you, and whether or not he's going to kill you the next time he moves if you don't shine the flashlight. So immediately here, we get some talk about, one, the fact that Chica eats pizza somehow, despite the fact that she's a robot. But also, I like that this is in the kitchen and just everything is completely dirty. So dirty, so filthy. There are cockroaches running around everywhere, including inside Chica. I feel like it feels extremely grimy, but that's exactly how it should feel because, I mean, you've seen the restaurant in the first game. That place looks like you can get an STD just by smelling the air. And I also like the fact that Chica's cupcakes actually comes to life and starts running around the room and you have to catch him. I feel like that's just such a cool touch, but also the fact the lights go out, it makes it spooky because you also have to keep up with him and be able to time when you pick him up well enough. It's not very difficult, but, it's pretty spooky. Also, well, I also like this. At the end of the level, they offer you pizza for doing your job, but you can actually feed some of the pizza to Chica if you throw it into her mouth, and she eats it. So you can be pizza eating friends with a giant killer robot. I like that. I will never not make fun of the fact that the animatronic characters in this franchise, for some reason, have actual working instruments, but that doesn't detract from my enjoyment of this level at all. You have to take Bonnie's eyes out of his head and open his face, all of which are pretty scary things to do. But also, you have to make sure his guitar is in tune by changing one of the notes on it, depending on which one is wrong. Now, that in itself is perfectly fine, but the reason why I think this level is so good isn't even because of all that, but because of the fact that it forces you to put the eyes back in the order that you removed them. Now, you might think that that's an extremely minor reason to put this so high on the list, and it might be that, but it forces you to pay attention, and if you don't know that you have to pay attention to that the first time, you're like, oh shit, what was the order? Of course, you can still remember the order, so it's not even unfair. It's just you have to be paying attention, and I really like that they did that. I think that's such a cool thing because it'll cause anybody who wasn't paying attention to panic. You know, it it's such a small touch, but it goes such a long way, in my opinion, at the very least. So you know that Buzz Lightyear ride at Disney World? This is like that, but for FNaF. And so what's cool about this level is, well, it's kind of like a shooter. Unfortunately, I can't aim for the life of me. But if you hit these helpy signs that are in some parts, you can actually access alternate parts of the ride that lead you to a pizzeria where Jacko Bonnie and Jacko Chica are, and you can get extra points by doing that. But as for the actual normal story of the ride, it's about Foxy just being a pirate sailing and stuff. And then Kraken comes, eats him, he ends up underwater, and then he ends up befriending the Kraken. It doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of cool that they did something with it, in my opinion. But so as well with that, it's just kind of fun to play this one and try to see how high of a score you can get. But something that's really, really interesting about this level to me, once you think about it, is this is the first time in the entire series we ever see an animatronic acting the way an animatronic should.
Welcome aboard Captain Foxy's pirate adventure! You can help me with this here adventure by shooting the targets with that there hand cannon. Do your best, or I'll send you to Davy Jones's locker.
It feels so surreal to see that in one of these games, but, you know, he actually acts like a normal animatronic. Unless, of course, you don't get your high score and then he kills you, but, you know, whatever. So we're at the top 10 now, which makes me think that you're enjoying this, so please leave a like on the video. But so anyway, this is a level that has a bunch of... It's based on the Funtime Foxy level from earlier, but it just has a bunch of animatronics, the Funtime animatronics specifically, all over the place. And instead of Funtime Foxy, the one who's following you the way that he does in his normal level is Lolbit, who is similar to him. So it works. But the reason I like this a lot, well, one, Lolbit is in it. Lolbit is cool, although I like Funtime Foxy more. But the fact that it's basically a minefield of robots that you have to traverse, and if you walk into any of them, you die. That's cool, and it makes the having to path yourself to not walk into Lolbit even harder than it normally is. And I, for one, think that's a great design choice. The fact that they recreated Nightmare Fredbear's boss fight from FNaF 4 brings me so much joy, because it's already really scary in that game, but here even more so. But so, it is basically just his boss fight from FNaF 4, so I'm not going to have anything specifically new to say about it or anything, but, you know, you check the doors, you check the closet, you listen for audio cues. That's it. I mean, it's pretty simple, but, you know, when you get down to it, it's a very good boss fight. The original Five Nights at Freddy's was a game that pretty much feels like it was designed to be played in virtual reality, so it really isn't a surprise that the remake of this game was the best one. That being said, there are very minimal changes to the gameplay, and that is the fact that uh, Freddy stops at your door if it's closed whenever he moves from the right closet, but I think that's the only thing I noticed that was different. Oh, and also the fact that the camera doesn't make your power go down, but what are you going to do about that in this? But it allows you to keep an extra track on the characters. But, you know, that being said, another thing that I think is cool about this version of the game is that you can actually leave the office. If you do, Foxy kills you immediately. But you can actually leave the office, and I think that's really cool that they addressed why you never move in the original game. I just think that's so good that they did that. I find that so funny. But in addition, it's just the atmosphere in the first game was really, really good, and so I think that they capture it very well here. It's a great remake. It's a great remake of the original game, and I really am running out of things to say. But I mean, come on, look at it. It's pretty much that game, but in VR. Are you really going to complain about this? Also, I will say this: I don't know where Freddy stands when the dark happens. I mean, I assume it's the left, but I can't see him. I don't know if that's a bug with my version of the game or anything, but I just couldn't tell where he was. Pizza Party is the final level of the main game, and boy does it show, because this definitely feels like a finale. Basically, it's just a maze where you go through a bunch of rooms and try to figure out the right path, but let me just tell you, the reason why I put it this high is not because of that maze part. It's because of this moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Fazbear Entertainment would like you to put your hands together for the one, the only,
Yes, that actually happened. The virus that you've been fearing this entire game shows up as an actual entity in one of the minigames and kills you. It actually just does what Afton does to children, but to you. And you get to experience it personally. That is haunting. I absolutely love it. So, the reason I'm putting the Freddy parts and surface level this high is, well, one, he has a bunch of items from actual guests stuck on and in him somehow, which makes it very weird. Either he harms them or they gave him the items or something. I don't know. It's kind of mysterious, and I like that. But also, the part where you break Freddy's music box, I really, really like that, because it just makes you feel a sense of panic. I mean, it's pretty easy to fix it because you just get another music box and move slowly, but like it's pretty tense. But also, I like the fact that this is how you close Freddy once you put it in.
Crisis averted. To close Freddy's chest cavity, press the large black button on the center of Freddy's face. That concludes your time in parts and service.
To me, at least, Nightmarionne is one of the scariest characters in the franchise. So the fact that they gave him his own level where you're doing a FNaF 4 style thing. I mean, he came from FNaF 4. But this one's different from how he was in FNaF 4, where he was just Nightmare. But in this game, you're in a completely messed up bedroom, and you have to use the flashlight to get rid of his fingers because they come at you from within the bedroom. And if they get too far and stay there for too long, then he kills you. But also, you have to check both of the doors because a giant Nightmarionne, as in his actual body, he just walks through the hallway as a giant lumbering figure, and it's terrifying. I think this is one of the scariest levels in the game. I don't know if it's the absolute scariest, but it's up there. Build-A-Mangle has you put a bunch of robotic pieces, a bunch of specific robotic pieces. You can't choose what they are, but you have to put them into a machine that then assembles a mangle out of them based off of the character Mangle, who is a mangled mangle of pieces. But so, you have to pay attention to what pieces are coming by, and you also need to zap the Freddles or else they'll cause distractions. But that's not the main focus. The focus is the conveyor belt and making sure you get all the items you need. And if you mess up by putting in the incorrect item, Mangle will actually show up at the top of the room, and after you put in the third incorrect item, she'll actually just kill you. But also, you need to get enough pieces into the machine that are correct to satisfy it, because she'll kill you if you don't do that. And the reason why I find this one just a blast to play is because of the hecticness of it. Because you have to be able to think fast with these pieces. There's not much room for error, and it's just a lot of fun, really. I think so, at the very least. But, you know, a lot of these minigames are a lot of fun. This is no exception, although it is one of the best ones. Mangle also stars in a vent repair level where you have to do a bunch of puzzles in these vents. And the reason why I think this is such an effective level, and also a contender for the scariest level in the game, is the fact that as this goes on, more and more pieces of the wall that the vents are in open up that allow you to get killed by Mangle from more directions. So it makes you feel more vulnerable as this goes on. What especially helps with this is the fact that the puzzles actually take time to do as well. You have to look for and flip different switches, push buttons, pull different SpongeBob's doorknobs, and then also there's a part where there's a light that flashes different colors, and you have to look at the order of the colors. You have to pay attention to the order of the colors while also listening to make sure Mangle doesn't come for you. That's so good. It's so good. I mean, come on. I mean, all you have to do to get rid of Mangle is look at her, but still, that doesn't take anything away from this level. It is still very scary. But hey, you know what's even better than one Mangle? Two Mangles. This level is similar to the first Mangle level, but instead, every single wall is open from the get-go. So, you have to pay attention to all three openings. And what makes it even better is there are two Mangles that come after you. One that comes after you facing you with the fox head, and the other one that comes after you facing you with the endoskeleton head. But basically, it's an even more tense and difficult version of the original Mangle level. Also, once again, every puzzle is available so you can solve them in whichever order you want, and I like that. I think that's really cool. My pick for the best level in FNaF Haunted is Trick or Treat, one of the Halloween DLC levels. And in this one, you basically have to watch every animatronic in the house and just pay attention to where they move and then put on the correct mask that corresponds to which character you think is at the door once somebody is about to answer the door. This simple premise is so mind-boggling to play through because of how each of the characters moves in their own different way and the audio cues that some of them have. It's just so cool. And not only that, it also has some of the most tense moments in the entire game whenever you're about to put the mask on and you second guess yourself and you're not sure who's at the door, but you have enough hints to decipher it, and you should be able to know, but you haven't figured it out yet because you're under stress and you have to pick a mask and it turns out to be the wrong one.